Welcome back. We'll be learning next month what economic impact the World Rowing Championships had on the Suncoast. There's no doubt, however, it put the Sarasota-Bradenton area on the worldwide map when it comes to the international rowing community, and that is great. But will taxpayers be getting a return on their investment? It has been estimated $40 million in public funding has gone into Nathan Benderson Park. Sarasota's county's tab alone, nearly $20 million. Despite that, the promised $10 million boathouse still has not been built. Several other facilities that had been planned also have not been built yet. And joining us for more is Rick Piccolo, CEO of Sarasota-Bradenton International Airport and a member of the Nathan Benderson Community Park Foundation. Virginia Haley, president of Visit Sarasota County. Kathy Atunis, host of The Detail on WSRQ Radio. And Pat Rounds, a community activist. I welcome you all. And Virginia, I'm going to start with you because a lot of people may have watched Adam's story and say, oh my goodness, how much, taxpayer money went to this. We do not know yet in terms of how the the area profited in terms of the economics of this World Rowing Championship. When will we know, and how are you looking at it all?
We have brought in a research firm from Tallahassee. They were at the park every day. Now they're working with the teams and the coaches around the world, gathering all the data from each team. We wanted to be very precise because we know this economic impact is very important for the community. So we expect it will take probably about 2 to 3 weeks more to get it all wrapped up. But obviously from what we've heard from all the rowers, we put on perhaps the best championship ever.
Is there a way to estimate whether the impact to the community will be more than the investment made into it?
I think you have to look at the long-term use of the park, both as a community asset that all of us get to use every day, and then all of the different events going on at the park just about every week.
Rick, this is a complicated subject, and I know that you're not in a position to answer all questions, but obviously you heard the criticism that a lot of money was put in, public money, and only 1 out of 4 or 5 facilities were even completed. How did that happen?
Well, I think first of all, it doesn't mean we've stopped trying to complete the rest of the facilities. I think the more important point here is that all these facilities are owned by the county, go to the benefit of the county. And I think there's another very big difference here than other things that are funded. And I'm going to take, say, the Ed Smith Stadium or the Raymond James Stadium that gets money from the public. The difference there is those facilities are really for a private entity, the Orioles in the case of Ed Smith, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the case of Raymond James. But this is a public park that's used every day by the public and is utilized not just for rowing, but it's utilized for running, it's got a playground, it's got restroom facilities, and we look at this vision as something that can grow with the community. This is really kind of the central park of Sarasota and Manatee County, like Central Park in New York, and that's a much different entity than those other facilities. You can't take a Little League team and take it down to Ed Smith Stadium on Saturday when it's vacant.
Pat, you have been out there for years in terms of watching how much money is going into this. When you hear what the explanation is, does that explain anything to you?
Well, I appreciate, the difference between this park, which is a public park, and perhaps a spring training stadium, okay? But from the outset, when you make a commitment, and actually the press release that the county sent out when Benderson Rowing Park won the bid to host the 2017 World Rowing Championship uses the word commitment at least twice. I have a copy of it here if we want to quote from it. It also breaks out how much the public portion of this public-private partnership had invested at the time, this is 2013, and the commitment that was going to be made by the private partner. And while it is for the public, when you enter into these public-private partnerships, they're partnerships, and both partners have an obligation, whether this is for the public good or otherwise.
Kathy, I saw you in Adam's piece talk about the increasing cost to taxpayers. What is the single biggest question you have?
Well, the economic impact projections, when in 2010, when it went from 6.7 million to 25 million, they hired a USF economist who was reputable, who said that with a boathouse at $25 million, which we've spent much more, we don't have, the annual impact would be 14 million a year. A couple years later, when the costs were skyrocketing, they hired someone who I don't consider reputable at all, Donna Arduin, who went to the state lobbying for money with a study saying that this rowing facility was going to bring in $209 million a year in annual spending. So my concern is, you know, half the kids in this county are on a free or reduced lunch. We need real economic development. This does not look like the real deal.
All right, we are just getting warmed up. We'll have much more on taxpayer money and being spent on Benderson Park right after we check the first alert weather, so stay with us. Welcome back. Did taxpayers get what they paid for at the World Rowing Championships? Joining us for more is Rick Piccolo, CEO of Sarasota Bradenton International Airport and a member of the Nathan Benderson Community Park Foundation. Virginia Haley, president of Visit Sarasota County. Kathy Antunes, host of The Detail on WSRQ Radio. And Pat Rounds, a community activist. Let's begin with a statement that was given to us by Stephen Rodriguez, the new president and CEO of Sanka at Nathan Benderson Park. Quote, all projects for which funding has been secured are complete and additional amenities on the master plan will be addressed as fundraising takes place. Rick, a lot of the attention has been in the last couple of weeks on the boathouse, which help us understand this, because you've raised $15 million for the construction of it. Another additional $5 million was asked, I believe, from the state legislature. Where did all that money go?
Well, I think some of that money, $7 million, went to the construction of the boathouse. There were a lot of other things that were constructed here. I don't have a breakdown I don't have a spreadsheet here of what different facilities got built with the privatized money versus the public money. What I will say is that we haven't abandoned any chances of building a boathouse or anything like that. Would we have liked to have had it done in time for the World Championships? Yes, but they still pulled off a fantastic event. And if I may, the economic impact that I've seen over the last 4 years, looking at the statistics from Visit Sarasota, was about $87 million in just the last 4 years. So the public's gotten more than a return on the investment, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but it is a public facility that is used 365 a year. And to me, that's a much different type of investment than in a private facility for some other.
What was the obstacle in terms of getting all the construction done on time?
Well, I think funding is one of the obstacles, and it's been a harder effort than we anticipated to raise all the private funding. With that said, I think the community should be very proud of what was raised, and also be very thankful that we have a person like Randy Benderson and his family here, because they've put millions of dollars of their own money into it, the foundation money, and many things that are in kind. And just to give you an example, the week before we had Hurricane Irma, when I went to the rowing meet, all the people that work in the landscaping crew of the Benderson Foundation I was talking to them, they had been up 4 days getting everything back in shape in time for the World Championships. The community should be very thankful for the kind of contributions they get for these things.
Kathy, when you hear the argument that the Bendersons have kicked in, I think it was at least $6 million for the boathouse, right. You're shaking your head.
Well, you know, Rick is saying, you said that you raised $15 million. I've heard, and actually, Rick, you're with the Nathan Benderson Foundation. Sanka never raised the money. Okay, and then the Bendersons created their own foundation to raise money. They didn't donate to Sanka, and then because Sanka is subject to procurement and competitive bidding, my understanding is reported in the Herald Tribune that the Benderson Foundation didn't have to put out to competitive bid, and they hired themselves to build the facility, which this was sold as an economic engine, and you would expect some competitive bidding and everyone would have a shot at the jobs. That's one aspect. It is not correct to say that $15 million in private money has been raised. It's only 5 or 6. And you know, this is what the Bendersons promised. I'm glad they were out there doing what they said they would do, but they haven't come through with the private money. And that's a problem. And can I just
toss in, you know, we do have a problem with poverty in Sarasota County. Half the kids in this county are on a free or reduced lunch. Our economic engine projects need to work. They need to actually work. And I don't know, I quoted 2 studies that were wildly different. So I'm very skeptical about the numbers.
I don't see where there's a nexus here between the school lunch program and the park. The park has provided $87 million worth of economic benefit. It does provide economic return to the community, and it provides tax revenue and those types of things that help with the schools. I don't see where it becomes a detriment. The two are mutually exclusive. There's no nexus here between the two.
And our children got to participate in this event. The school children were able to adopt teams from different countries to learn about those countries, and then to come to the event, thanks to the Benderson Family Foundation, to meet these Olympians. It was an amazing experience for the athletes and our students.
It was an amazing experience for everybody in our community. The question is whether the community in terms of, is going to get the economic return that the community was led to believe that it would get.
Well, I think those figures have already have shown that it's getting that economic benefit. And the other thing it does that I want to emphasize is that it has many charitable events. In another week, there's a Making Strides Against Cancer event that will be there. A Walk for Alzheimer's in November. The Jingle Bell Run for Arthritis in December. The Dragon Boat races that were there for breast cancer. It has a lot of community benefit that help lots of people that are disadvantaged.
Pat, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Kathy in the last segment. What is the biggest question that you have after listening to this that you have?
Well, first, I don't think there's any question that there are lots of good things that go on at the park, okay? Yeah. You can see the calendar is filled with a variety of things, okay? But to get back to its dollars and cents, instead of going slow and earning your way to greater investment, what this park did for some reason was to go for the gusto, to host the largest international rowing event there is, and to make all of these things happen, and basically on a pond that essentially was just a pond. There had to be a dredging and filling done. There was a man-made regatta island, all paid for with public funding. There was landscaping.
The tourist tax.
Yes, through the tourist tax, but that can also, the tourist tax ultimately is for public use, okay? It might be collected from people who are coming here to visit and enjoy themselves, but ultimately it is for all of us to use. And when it's segmented into a project like this, where there, again, a commitment, when you have a commitment, a public-private partnership, the commitment really needs to be binding. And what I'd like to ask, you asked me what's my question, was there ever a real written binding agreement between the partners to this? It's $60 million when you add all the cost of the structures.
Yeah, but less than a minute left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there ever a true binding commitment for this endeavor? Or was it the public will do what it usually does, and the private will come in and maybe or maybe not make good on its promise?
I'm not privy to what agreements are made between the county and the developers and that type of thing. I saw a public good from the first day that I went to the very first meet. My effort, along with the effort of many other people, volunteers as well, is to turn this, what was a borrow pit, into a beautiful public park, which it is, and also a venue that delivers economic development, which it did. And whether you thought they were shooting for the moon with the World Rowing Championship or not, they did achieve a wonderful venue and a wonderful event that even the leaders of the World Rowing Championship say they'll be back. They'll be back next year.
We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment. And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Rick, I'm going to start with you because I'm going to pick up on the question that Pat had. You know, Tampa just got the 2021 Super Bowl because it was supposed to go to Los Angeles, and the new stadium in Los Angeles is not going to be ready in time. So the question is, you had the eyes of the world on us for this event, and only one of the 5 buildings that was planned was ready for the golden moment. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, were we ready? Did we deliver what we said we were going to deliver?
I would argue that we did. First of all, whatever temporary facilities were in place, or some of the permanent facilities that we hope to have in the future worked just perfectly well. Secondly, most of the infrastructure is below the water, and both in the lengthening of the course, the wave attenuation, the ability to broadcast the entire route of the race was along that bridge that was constructed there. For the people that are out in the audience, they didn't see anything different. And if you go to FISA, which was the governing body, they said it was one of the best venues ever.
So, Virginia, how do we calculate the economic impact of this event on the area in terms of the short term and the longer term?
So we capture all the information and interview people at the park while the event's going on. We'll be capturing information from the teams. They booked through our housing bureau, so we know exactly what they spent on their hotel rooms. And then the other part of what we're capturing is what it did for our reputation. From the day we were awarded this bid 4 years ago, has given us the ability to bring other high-profile events to the facility.
Kathy, considering where we are now, what is your concern in terms of the future of this facility and what it will bring to the Suncoast?
Well, this facility is supposed to be financially self-sufficient. It's by October of 2018, and it's been reported that each event, they're $10,000 in the hole. I bring up, what's going on overall with the economy because this is supposed to help. This was portrayed in very lavish terms with really big promises, and it's hard to believe that it's going to have that big an impact.
And Pat, so what do? Do you basically just stay on the top of the shareholders here, or what does the community who is concerned about the amount of taxpayer money going to this do?
Well, I would like to see a more concerted effort to bring in the private sector and really contribute what's been missing here. You say that $15 million has been raised in private money, yet there's only a $6 million finish tower. And if you, from the outset, make a firm commitment, a binding agreement among both parties, then there's a tendency to be more realistic with what your expectations are.
All right,
and that hasn't happened here.
Thanks. We have to leave it where we are. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And remember, you can stay up to date on our latest breaking news instantly, like the University of Florida situation last week with the new ABC 7 app. If you have an iPhone or an iPad currently on your news app, you'll need to go to the App Store now and search for WWSB or My Suncoast, then download the new version. If you're an Android user, you'll get the new version automatically. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Rick Piccolo, the CEO of Sarasota-Bradenton International Airport and a member of the Nathan Benderson Community Park Foundation. Virginia Haley, president of Visit Sarasota County. Kathy Antunes, host of The Detail on WSRQ Radio. And Pat Rounds, a community activist.